Welcome back to GBN America with me, Patrick Christys. Now, over the weekend, everything was dominated by the Super Bowl, wasn't it? Who was going to win? Was Taylor Swift going to endorse Joe Biden afterwards? But who would have thought that we'd end up using Prince Harry and the NFL in the same sentence? Well, Kinsey Schofield joins us now, royal commentator extraordinaire from stateside. Kinsey, thank you very, very much. It's great to have you back on the show. And am I right in saying that Prince Harry has essentially snubbed his own sick father in order to attend an NFL event?
I mean, I think that that's what upset some of the royal commentary community the most, because so many of us, well, maybe not on this channel, but a lot of people said we should give Harry the benefit of the doubt. We should be sensitive about this particular topic because of King Charles and his cancer diagnosis. And so a lot of defending Prince Harry, and then all of the sudden he shows up at the NFL Honors event to give, well, ironically, the award for like Man of the Year, which he knows nothing about. But I think that there is a connection here, Patrick, because the NFL Honors Award show is streamed on Paramount Plus, and we just saw Harry and Meghan on the CEO of Paramount's private jet going to Jamaica and back for the Bob Marley movie premiere produced by Paramount. So I do believe that what we're seeing is a real relationship developing between the Duke and Duchess of Sussex and Paramount, whether that be, just for, I don't know, maybe it's safety, maybe it's backup, because there's so much gossip about what's going to happen to their Netflix relationship in 2025. We know that there are 3 projects on the horizon for Netflix, but whether they can successfully execute those in a timely manner is highly questionable, considering the fact that it took them 2 years to produce the only commercial success they've had with Netflix, which is the Harry and Meghan documentary. Went through multiple production teams, mind you, to produce that. And there's a huge countdown on their Netflix contract that ends in 2025. So can they finish these 3 projects that are on the horizon? And if they fail, are they going to jump ship and head to Paramount, which is another competing streaming platform?
I mean, it's amazing that Paramount would really want them with their track record, isn't it? But let's just move on to some news that actually broke today, which is that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, so Harry and Meghan, they found themselves at the centre of another row because they're giving their website a bit of a makeover. Now, that website includes things like the kind of royal crest and their titles, despite distancing themselves massively from the royal family. I mean, this is actually quite controversial, to be honest with you, isn't it?
I mean, well, it flirts with what they agreed not to do during the Sandringham summit, and it makes you wonder if they have completely just thrown the Sandringham summit agreement out the window because they didn't get what they wanted, because the outcome wasn't the outcome ultimately that they wanted. They were told, we know that one of the things that upset Prince William, the Queen, and Prince Charles at the time the most was that Harry and Meghan launched the website Sussex Royal without anyone's approval, without giving anyone a heads up, and it outlined what their expectations were stepping down as senior members of the royal family. Now, the royal family reeled them back in after that and said, we need to have a talk because this is not on the table. You can't monetize the royal brand. Remember, Harry and Meghan scoffed back, saying something to the effect of, you can live a life of service without the word royal in it. You don't own the word royal. And so basically it's just, they've relaunched Sussex Royal basically without the word royal. They're using a crest. They're using their titles. I will say, from a PR standpoint, I wonder if it's because they've dirtied the Archwell. I mean, they've polluted the Archwell brand over the last few years with, when Harry would lose or win a court case, it would be an Archwell spokesperson typically that would respond to it. Same with Meghan. What does Archwell do? People don't know. They received only 2 million donations. I think that was 11 million less than the previous year at Archwell. And I think it's because no one knows what their core values are as a charity or a foundation. What's the ultimate objective objective there. So perhaps somebody has instructed them, you really need to separate Archewell from from your personal lives, from your personal chaos, because it's negatively affecting this charitable brand that you're trying to get going, and you're trying to get people to take seriously. I mean, if you ask anybody what does Archewell do, I think that they stumble because they just don't know. Although I would tell you, they typically just insert themselves into something else that's already active and happening, just so they can take credit for it. But yeah, I think that the website, it's not a great look. It's almost as if they've taken advantage of the fact that the Queen is gone, and the King is currently incapacitated. He's not able to he's not a working member right now. He's taken a step back. So I think that it looks a little bit like they're taking advantage of the situation, and the website's as boring as they are.
Yeah, I mean, the rumour as well today is that Prince Harry refused to be in the same room as Queen Camilla, which is why the meeting with King Charles potentially only lasted around 12 minutes after his cancer diagnosis. But I'm just reading here that on this website, Harry is described as a humanitarian, military veteran, mental health advocate and environmental campaigner. Meghan is hailed as a feminist and champion of human rights and gender equity. Well, is there anything true on that?
Well, wait, Patrick. Gender equity when Archewell itself pays their female employees less than their male employees. I mean, gender equity, like that, oh my gosh. Sorry, I just had a little fit. I apologize. But that's like the hypocrisy astounds.
Yeah, no, it does really. It does. And it's amazing, though, that they don't seem to be able to see how gauche this is.
I mean, to me, if you look at that website, I wonder why they did it. Because if I was not going to work with the Sussex, if I'm a brand and I'm Dior or I'm whatever, and I don't want to work with the Sussexes a week ago, I don't peruse this website and decide I've changed my mind and they seem like a valuable asset to me. Their reputation is too toxic at this point in time to change anyone's minds. You either love them or you hate them. And if you love them, that is a weird crowd that I'm not trying to impress anyway. I don't understand that crowd. But I just don't think that it's going to change anyone's minds about them.
No, indeed. And, there's quite a lot going on here, really. There's talk as well about, just to return back to the Super Bowl, about, Meghan Markle not wanting to be outshone by Taylor Swift at this particular event. Is that really where she is, do you think?
No, I mean, Meghan is desperate to be Taylor's friend. Meghan invited Taylor Swift on her podcast by sitting down and writing her a handwritten letter, begging her to be on Archetypes. Meghan attended, not only did Meghan attend the Taylor Swift concert in Los Angeles, but she made sure that People magazine knew that she attended the Taylor Swift concert in Los Angeles. It was important for Meghan to release to gossip sites here that she was there. She wanted people to know. I think she wants to be in Taylor's sphere. I think she wants to be like Taylor Swift, marketing wise. Taylor also, keep in mind, Taylor went from, villain to hero. And I'm sure Meghan's looking at that transition in Taylor's public relations journey, thinking, how do I do something similar? Kanye West and Kim Kardashian had everyone attacking Taylor Swift, leaving like snake emojis all over her Instagram. And they were, they had cut a clip that made it sound like Taylor had agreed to something that ultimately we found out Taylor didn't agree to, which was being mentioned on this vulgar Kanye West track. And then Kanye put it was a mannequin that looked like Taylor Swift in a bed next to him in this music video. And really the pop culture world turned on Taylor Swift, and they really made her the villain of the story. And Taylor was so affected by it that she disappeared from the public for 6 years. Taylor's had her comeback now. I think a lot of that is associated with this romance she has with Travis Kelce. People are invested in that relationship. Her Eras tour was an incredible, it did so much for the United States economy. And she's just a very generous person. She's a good marketer. And I think that Meghan watches Taylor and says, how do I do that? So I don't agree with that storyline. Also, we've seen Harry show up to the Super Bowl years ago with Eugenie, but I don't think Meghan would go unless there was some sort of financial attachment. If she was sitting in a box and promoting a bigger brand, maybe, but I don't see Meghan doing something like that, especially in Sin City, where the last time we heard about Harry in Sin City, he was on a naked romp with a bunch of random girls in 2012 all over TMZ. I don't think that that would be a priority for Meghan Markle.
Yeah, the good old days for Harry. Why would Meghan want to be there to remind him of how far he's fallen? Look, Kinsey, thank you very, very much. Tremendous as ever to have you on the show. And I hope to talk to you again very, very soon. That is Royal commentator Kinsey Schofield for us here on GBN America. Well, we're keeping it celebrity now on GBN America because a real-life Superman is joining us. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. There's Dean Cain who's going to tell us about his rise to stardom, how the industry has changed, obviously, since the good old days of the 90s, and crucially, share his views as well on the two people stealing all of the headlines in America at the moment. It is, of course, Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Dean, thank you very much for joining us. Great to have you on the show. Can I start with what has been an insane week? For an insane week for Joe Biden, okay? I'm just reading this out now. He's confused a European leader with a dead predecessor not once but twice. He got confused about the name of Hamas. He's also been confused about Mexico and Egypt. I mean, hey, look, we've all been there. Both of them have pyramids, I think. I mean, is Joe Biden actually seriously fit to continue to be the president of the United States?
I don't think so. And I didn't think he was fit to begin with. He has flashes of lucidity and of that nature, but I think everybody knows he's old and he's senile. Bless him. I mean, he's lived a long and very, very good life, I'm sure. But to be running the free world, I don't think he is fit for it. And I think that he's not really the one doing it anyway. He's more of a figurehead up there. I think there's the cabal of people behind him who propped him up, these puppet masters, and they're the ones pulling all the strings. And that's something that Vivek Ramaswamy keeps harping on, is like the people who we elect to run the government should be the ones running the government. I don't feel like Joe Biden is, and I certainly hope that he does not get reelected, because it'll be the same mess we've been in for these last 3.5 years. 3 years.
I mean, America, along with Britain, to be fair, waged wars with countries to try and, quotes unquote, bring democracy to the Middle East, etc. And then, with absolute respect, Dean, you look at what's going on in America now and you think, well, hang on a minute, does America have democracy? Because there's no way Joe Biden's actually running the country, is there?
No, he really isn't. And for us, we're a constitutional republic. We're not just a straight democracy. A straight democracy is two wolves and a lamb deciding what's for dinner. It's going to be the lamb, so it's majority rule, mob rule. We don't have that here. We have a constitution that sets everybody, even if you're in the minority, you're still safe with your opinion. You should be able to have your opinion. I'll tell you that what's going on Biden is not the guy. He is not cognitively aware enough. He can't be doing these things. They're just gaslighting everybody. Say he's so fit. He does more in 1 hour than most people do in a day and all that sort of stuff. I mean, again, I have no ill will toward him, but he should not be running the country, and he absolutely should not be running for re-election. It's been an absolute disaster.
But who replaces him, though? Who replaces him, though, Dean? Are we talking Michelle Obama? Is Hillary Clinton going to have another go? I mean, God forbid Kamala Harris.
No, I don't think Kamala Harris does it at all. I think they know she's completely unlikable. Hey, listen, I think they're hoping that he gets in and gets reelected, and then they replace him with whomever it might be. And I think that's the case. They're going to have him run that same, strategy from his basement and not get out there and talk too much. The problem with what he's had lately is that he got out there and spoke. And if you get him to speak with something that's not scripted off the teleprompter, get him to just speak contemporaneously, he's going to bury himself, so to speak. So I don't know who they put in. I think Michelle Obama would be a nightmare. I think Hillary Clinton always wants to run. Gavin Newsom, I guarantee you, was a nightmare. He's the reason I left California. He's slick, but he's terrible. His policies are terrible. And that's what people don't seem to understand. It's all about policy. And the policies that under the Biden administration are terrible. You may not like Donald Trump. You might think he was brash, and spoke off the cuff a lot. But his policies were fantastic, not only for the United States, but for the world. There were 0 wars under Donald Trump, and there's at least 3 or 4 going on right now.
Well, let's talk Trump now, because there was that incredible interview between Tucker Carlson and Vladimir Putin. I'm not quite sure what you thought about that. I thought it was insightful, at least. But, you know, if Trump had been president, then arguably Putin wouldn't have invaded Ukraine. We'll never know the answer to that, but it's certainly a theory. I believe that Trump has told his allies that he would encourage Russia to attack any NATO member that failed to meet the alliance's target of 2% of their GDP. I mean, are there risks associated with Trump for you now when it comes to the actual realpolitik of the world situation? I mean, Putin is now at war in Ukraine.
Yeah, well, I think, President Trump says a lot of things that are in jest. He says them half jokingly. He's very candid and he's very clever. He'll say things, but see, that riles everybody up. Of course, he's not going to let anybody attack a NATO ally, but the NATO allies haven't been paying their 2%. The United States carries the UN, and it's incredible how much they do that, and NATO. And so if people aren't paying their fair share, the amount that they pledged to pay, then he would put pressure on them. And I believe that's a pressure device. I don't think he would allow anybody to attack not Putin or anybody to attack a NATO alliance member. But however, Ukraine is not in NATO, and that's part of the whole problem. And NATO's been expanding, and if NATO expands, that's going to make Russia angry. I mean, it's not like it's rocket science rather.
Mm. Yeah, no, I agree completely. And when it comes as well to the controversy around the Carlson Putin interview, some people saying, we allowed Vladimir Putin to just put his side across. I thought one thing that really stood out to me was that he said that he hadn't spoken to Joe Biden since the start of the war. And I thought, well, that's clearly because Joe Biden can't actually talk to other world leaders, which is surely a massive danger. But what was your overall take on that Carlson Putin interview?
Listen, I'm so sick of getting my news filtered through NBC or through another whole news agency, the main media that you've always seen, the old school media. They're always censoring and changing things. Tucker Carlson is a journalist, and he wants to get to it. We believe in free speech here in the United States, so people should be able to speak, even if there's someone like Vladimir Putin who is waging a war. What is his side of the story? I always believe it's better to have more speech than less speech. Tucker Carlson believes the same, and he gave him a shot to say his words. Look, Fox fired Tucker Carlson for whatever reason. I think that was a huge mistake, and I've worked with Fox quite a bit. I love Tucker, and look what he's done. That interview has gotten hundreds of millions of views, and you don't see that in mainstream media. You don't see those kind of numbers. So giving Vladimir Putin, I mean, it's the first time that most of us have seen him speak on something and get questions directly from a U.S. reporter who asks some tough questions. And obviously you see something just by watching the interview. It's clear that, he's not used to having conversations with reporters that are going to ask him questions that he might not like. It was a really insightful, very interesting interview.
I actually think it exposed a lot. I think it exposed a lot. People were saying, it was so softball, it was under our... Well, firstly, he's in the Kremlin. Okay, so I mean, with respect, there is a limit to how far you're going to be able to push a guy when you're sitting in his own backyard and all of this. But I thought it was revealing. Look, we've spoken about one war there. Let's talk about a different war. It's the culture war. And this is something I know you've got strong views on. So, you are perhaps most famous for playing Superman. Massive role, one of the biggest roles on the planet. And now DC have been criticised for a storyline that made Superman come out as bisexual. What do you make of that?
Well, look, when that happened, I was very clear. I was like, look, when it happened, a few years ago, it actually happened. I said, look, it's not brave or a new direction for Superman's son to come out as gay. It's what it was. It was Superman's son. I said it would have been brave 20 years ago. But now every other superhero is gay, and I make the joke about that, or going through what the current zeitgeist is. And what I'm trying to say, what I argued against, is stop taking these characters that we know and we love and whose values and morals have been there and stood the test of time, and changing them to fit the current zeitgeist. It doesn't work. Go woke, go broke. And so I don't like seeing characters that I've grown up with and loved their stance on this or their position on the world. I don't think it has to change with the times. They're good, solid, moral standards and values. If you want to create a new superhero, that does X, Y, or Z. Go ahead and see if you can sell that one. But changing the current ones, I mean, even the girl who's playing Snow White got off and was like, she's not going to get saved by a prince this time. That's the story. Make a new story. Don't make it Snow White. And things like that. They keep changing everything, and I'm not a fan of it. And the market has said that they're not a fan of it as well, because these companies, Disney, for example, has lost a ton of money, and DC Comics. I hope that this current Superman incarnation that's going to be directed by James Gunn, I hope it has the humor and brings back the Superman that I know and love. So I'm rooting for that. But quit changing our current characters, create new ones.
Yeah, I mean, you've also seen probably the most famous example of this ever, I think, which was Bud Light with Dylan Mulvaney, and the massive pushback that happened there, for goodness sake. And still they don't learn, because they get the diversity dollars in, right? They get, the kind of woke corporates who will be willing to pump money in. It doesn't matter really whether or not this product is a success. It's part of a much wider and bigger ideology. And you must have seen that change a lot in your time, from the early and the mid-90s to where we are today. Do you think, though, that conservatives maybe are partly to blame because there wasn't enough of a pushback? I mean, this has been allowed to happen.
Yeah, well, it's the powers that be. There aren't, in Hollywood, there's a few people who make all the decisions. It's becoming more widespread now that technology has allowed people to make movies for much less and things of that nature. But because the technology has helped us, better cameras, less expensive, et cetera, and the post-production less expensive, those things have helped people get their messages out. I make a lot of faith-based movies. I make a lot of family movies. Those aren't the big ones in the box office, but at least we can get those things out there. I think culture, we kind of gave it away in that sense. But whenever you have a movie like It's a Wonderful Life or something like that, or even Top Gun Maverick, where the certain values are out there and pushed, it does really well. So I encourage, and I'll keep fighting and try to make movies that I think are important and have good values and a good message. Sometimes I'm the bad guy. Sometimes I make a movie that doesn't have that. But when I can, I try and make movies that share my values and something that I think people can learn from. And we need to do more of that, especially as conservatives. We absolutely need to.
Yeah. No, good for you. Good for you. Can I just squeeze in one more question with you, if that's okay?
Yes.
I mean, it's a massive, massive problem here. It's a massive problem in America. It's a global problem. And those, unfortunately, in charge of the world seem hell-bent on not addressing it. And I'm talking about the migrant crisis. I'm talking about what's going on, especially at your southern border. We think we've got it bad here because we have a few thousand people coming across the English Channel in small boats, and we've got big legal immigration. I mean, it's nothing compared to what you guys have got going on at the southern border. It's absolutely unbelievable. And the amount of money that's being spent on it as well. Look, what needs to happen when it comes to your southern border? Because with respect, your country is at stake here, right? Your culture, your nationality, your way of life, your welfare, your everything, the taxpayers' dollars, your law and order. All of this is being just run roughshod over by what's going on at the southern border. So come on, how do we fix that?
Well, it's by design. I mean, they're allowing it to happen. Alejandro Mayorkas is just doing nothing other than trying to get more people processed through. The people everyone's saying, it's about getting new voters in here and changing the makeup of the United States. If you hear any of these illegal immigrants coming across, they're saying, who would you vote for? Joe Biden. Joe Biden's the greatest. They're importing voters at what cost? There are more people who've come through claiming asylum here in the United States in the last 3 years than it'd be like the 6th or 7th largest state in our union. It's crazy, the numbers, but it's by design. They're bringing in new voters. They're trying to change it so that there's just a one-party state here in America, and they want just Democrats. But it's never going to work. People want to come to America because they have opportunity. The United States has opportunity, and that's because of capitalism. And if you start killing that, then you're going to just bring us down. Socialism has never worked. It won't work. Communism won't work. It doesn't work. It's capitalism, that economic system. So people want to come here for opportunity, and they're not coming here because they know the right things to say at the border. They've been coached. There's all these NGOs, these non-governmental organizations that are making a killing doing it. It's a huge business, huge money, but it's also paying for the cartels are making tons of money. The only way we can stop it, in my opinion right now, is that Donald Trump gets reelected here as president. the 47th president of the United States, and he will stop it immediately. You'll see the numbers careen to almost zero in no time. And then they'll probably end up deporting a lot of these folks who are here just, glomming off the system. We're having a lot of people get very angry here in the United States because immigrants are getting 1,500, immigrants, the folks that are coming over illegally, claiming asylum, are coming because they're not doing it through a port of entry. They're coming across the border and pushing it that way. There's a legal way to do it, and they're not doing it that way. But they're getting $1,500 a month, at least, in services and goods and so on and so forth. And it's starting to affect every city in this country, and people won't stand for it. So I think we're going to have to do something at the voting booth if that all goes well. And if we get Donald Trump in, things will change immediately.
Well, what a point to leave it on. Dean, can I just say it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you here on GBN America, and I really do hope that we can check back in and do this again sometime. It's the wonderful Dean Cain there, of course, Superman himself, wading in on a whole host of different topics. Dean, I'll see you around.
I appreciate it. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Dean Cain there. Now, if you'd like to join in the conversation, make sure that you follow us on social media at GBN America.